Blood dripped onto the white dental chair as 19-year-old Maya Chen screamed through the mouthguard. Something was moving inside her jaw. Something alive. Hold her down. Dr. Sarah Martinez yelled to her assistant. Maya's tooth wasn't just loose anymore. It was being pushed out from the inside by something dark and writhing. Doctor, look. The assistant pointed with shaking hands. Through Maya's torn gum, dozens of small white things were crawling out. They moved like tiny worms, but faster, much faster. Maya's eyes rolled back as more creatures spilled from the hole where her tooth used to be. They dropped onto the dental bib, squirming and twisting. Some had tiny black heads. Others seemed to pulse with their own heartbeat. What the hell are those things? The assistant whispered. Dr. Martinez had never seen anything like it in 20 years of dentistry. She grabbed a specimen cup with trembling hands, as more larvae poured out of Maya's mouth like rice spilling from a torn bag. Call 911, she whispered, and call the hospital. Tell them we have a medical emergency they've never seen before. Maya's body went limp as the last of the creatures emerged. In the specimen cup, dozens of pale larvae writhed against the plastic walls, very much alive and very much hungry. Maya Chen was the kind of 19-year-old every parent dreamed of having. Straight A's at State University, pre-med major, and she called her mom every Sunday without fail. Maya, you look tired, her roommate Jessica said, looking up from her textbook. When's the last time you actually slept? Maya rubbed her left cheek absent-mindedly. I'm fine. Just been having weird dreams lately, and my tooth feels funny. She was studying for her biology final, surrounded by medical textbooks and empty coffee cups. Maya had always been the responsible one, never partied, never drank, always focused on becoming a doctor. Maybe you should see the campus dentist, Jessica suggested. Your face looks a little swollen on that side. Maya touched her cheek again. It did feel puffy, but she'd been so busy with finals that she barely noticed. It's probably just stress. I'll deal with it after exams. What, Maya? Didn't tell Jessica was about the dreams. Every night for 2 weeks, she dreamed about something crawling in her mouth. She'd wake up with a metallic taste and the feeling that something was moving behind her teeth. Mom's calling, Maya said, answering her phone. Hi, Mom. No, I'm eating. Fine, yes. I'm getting enough sleep, but she wasn't eating fine. The left side of her face hurt too much to chew properly. And sleep. She was afraid to sleep because of what she might dream. Maya, you need to see a doctor, now. Jessica was staring at her roommate with concern. It had been 2 weeks since their conversation, and Maya looked terrible. The left side of Maya's face was noticeably swollen. Her skin had a grayish tint, and there were dark circles under her eyes from lack of sleep. I can't miss my organic chemistry exam, Maya mumbled, but even talking seemed to hurt her. Forget the exam. Look at yourself in the mirror. When Maya finally looked, she was shocked. Her face was lopsided from the swelling, and when she opened her mouth, she could see that her upper left molar was definitely loose. But there was something else. The gum around the tooth looked almost hollow. Okay, Maya whispered. Maybe I should see someone. The campus health center referred her immediately to Dr. Martinez, an oral surgeon in town. This isn't something we can handle here, the nurse told her. You need a specialist. During the drive to Dr. Martinez's office, Maya felt something shift in her mouth. Not just the loose tooth, but something deeper. Something that made her stomach turn with disgust and fear. Jess, what if it's something really bad? Maya asked, tears starting to form. Don't think like that. It's probably just an infection. Dentists deal with this stuff all the time. But deep down, both girls knew this wasn't normal. The smell coming from Maya's mouth wasn't like any infection they'd ever heard of. It smelled like something rotting. Something dead. Dr. Martinez took one look at Maya and knew this wasn't a typical case. In her 20 years of practice, she'd never seen gum tissue that looked quite like this. Maya, I need you to be completely honest with me. Have you been anywhere unusual recently? Any camping trips? Travel outside the country? Maya shook her head. Just school and home. I haven't even left the state in 2 years. Dr. Martinez carefully examined the loose tooth and the surrounding tissue. The gum was swollen and discolored, with an unusual texture that felt almost spongy under her probe. I'm going to take some x-rays, Dr. Martinez said, but I have to tell you, this doesn't look like any dental problem I've seen before. The x made everything worse. Around Maya's tooth root, there were dark spaces that shouldn't exist. The bone looked like it had been eaten away from the inside, creating hollow chambers that branched out like tiny tunnels. Maya, I need to ask you about your medical history. Any recent illnesses? Changes in your immune system? I had mono about 6 months ago, Maya said quietly. I was really sick for about 3 weeks. Why? Dr. Martinez studied the x-rays again. Something had created those tunnels in Maya's jawbone. Something that had been working for months, slowly hollowing out the tissue around her tooth. I want to schedule you for emergency surgery tomorrow morning, Dr. Martinez said. We need to extract this tooth and see what's causing the bone loss. Is it cancer? Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. I don't think so, but Maya, I need you to prepare yourself. When we open this up tomorrow, we might find something unexpected. Maya couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt movement in her mouth. Not imagined movement, real, physical shifting that made her want to throw up. Mom, I'm scared, she whispered into the phone. It was 2 a.m., but she couldn't wait until morning to call. I'm driving up first thing in the morning. Honey, her mother said Dr. Martinez called me. She explained everything. But what if it's something terrible? What if I'm really sick? Her mother's voice was gentle, but worried. Maya, whatever it is, we'll deal with it together. Try to get some rest. But rest was impossible. The metallic taste in her mouth was getting stronger, and she swore she could feel something moving behind her loose tooth. Something alive. At 3 a.m., Maya got up to brush her teeth, hoping to get rid of the awful taste. When she spit into the sink, she saw something that made her scream. In her saliva were tiny white specks. They weren't food, particles, or plaque. They were moving, writhing in the toothpaste foam, like microscopic worms. Jessica ran into the bathroom. Maya, what's wrong? Look, Maya pointed at the sink with a shaking hand. Look at what came out of my mouth. Jessica stared at the sink in horror. The tiny white things were definitely alive, squirming in the foam and water. We're going to the emergency room, right now. But my surgery is in 6 hours, Maya. Things are crawling out of your mouth. We're not waiting. By the time they got to the hospital, Maya's condition had gotten much worse. The left side of her face was so swollen, she could barely open her mouth, and the smell was making everyone in the ER step back. Get Dr. Martinez here immediately, the ER doctor ordered, and prepare OR3. Maya was rushed into surgery within an hour. Dr. Martinez scrubbed in with unusual care, knowing she was about to encounter something unprecedented. Vitals are stable, the anesthesiologist reported. But I'm seeing some unusual responses to the sedation. Let's begin, Dr. Martinez said, positioning her instruments over Maya's swollen jaw. As soon as she made the first incision into the gum tissue, everything went wrong. Instead of blood, a thick, dark fluid poured out, and in that fluid, something was moving. Suction, Dr. Martinez called out, but her voice was shaking. The suction tube pulled away the dark fluid, revealing the horror underneath. Maya's tooth root was completely surrounded by a writhing mass of pale, segmented larvae. Each one was about the size of a grain of rice, but they moved with purpose, like they were trying to escape the light. Jesus Christ, the surgical assistant whispered. As Dr. Martinez carefully extracted the tooth, more larvae spilled out of the socket. Dozens of them. They had been living in the hollow spaces they'd created in Maya's jawbone, feeding on the tissue and growing larger. "Get me specimen containers," Dr. Martinez ordered, her hands steady, despite her shock, "and called the CDC immediately." She counted as she extracted each larva. 43 in total. Some were still in early stages of development, while others looked almost ready to pupate into their adult form. "Doctor," the anesthesiologist called out, "the patient is waking up." Maya's eyes fluttered open just as Dr. Martinez dropped the last larva into a specimen container. For a moment, their eyes met, and Maya saw the horror on her surgeon's face. "What was it?" Maya whispered through the gauze. "What was living inside me?" Dr. Martinez looked at the containers full of writhing larvae, then back at her young patient. "We're going to find out." 2 days later, Maya sat in her hospital bed, her face still swollen, but finally free of pain. The test results had come back, and Dr. Martinez was preparing to explain something that would change Maya's understanding of her own life. "Maya, the organisms we removed are a type of parasitic fly larva," Dr. Martinez began gently. "They're related to botflies, but this is a species that's never been documented before." Maya's mother held her daughter's hand. "How did they get inside her? That's what we need to figure out. Maya, I need you to think very carefully. Have you been anywhere in the past year where you might have been exposed to unusual insects?" Maya shook her head. "I told you, I haven't traveled anywhere. Just school and home." Dr. Martinez consulted her notes. "You mentioned having mono 6 months ago. Where were you when you got sick?" "I was at my dad's house in Oregon. I always spend Christmas break there." Maya paused, thinking, "But I didn't do anything unusual. Just hiked a lot in the woods behind his house." "What kind of woods?" "Old-growth forest. Really dense canopy. Dad always said it was like a prehistoric jungle in there." Maya's eyes widened as she remembered something. "There were so many bugs, flies everywhere, and I got bitten constantly." Dr. Martinez nodded. "The entomologists we consulted think these larvae can remain dormant for months after initial infection. Your mono probably weakened your immune system enough for them to become active." Maya started crying. "You mean they've been inside me since Christmas, growing in my face for 6 months?" Her mother squeezed her hand. "The important thing is that they're gone now." But Maya couldn't stop thinking about the implications. For half a year, she'd been carrying dozens of parasitic insects in her jaw. They'd been eating her bone tissue, growing larger, preparing to emerge. "What would have happened if we hadn't found them?" Maya asked. Dr. Martinez was quiet for a moment. "Eventually, they would have emerged on their own, probably through your gums or cheek. The damage to your jawbone could have been permanent." Maya shuddered, imagining dozens of fly larvae crawling out of her face. "Will there be any lasting effects?" "We'll need to monitor you for a few months, but the bone should regenerate. You're young and healthy. Your body will heal." As Maya hugged her mother, she finally felt clean for the first time in months. The writhing sensation in her mouth was gone, along with the metallic taste and the nightmares. Maya Chen returned to school a month later, her smile brighter than ever. The loose tooth that had caused her so much pain was gone, along with the dozens of parasites that had been slowly eating her alive from the inside. But in the research labs at the CDC, scientists continue to study the specimens Dr. Martinez extracted. They've identified a completely new species of parasitic fly, one that can lie dormant in human tissue for months before becoming active. Maya's case has become a teaching tool for medical students across the country. It shows that sometimes the most terrifying medical mysteries aren't rare diseases or genetic disorders, but simple encounters with nature that go horribly wrong. The flies that bit Maya during her hiking trip in Oregon looked completely normal. She swatted them away like any other bug, never knowing that some had left behind microscopic eggs that would develop into living nightmares inside her face. Today, Hikers in the Pacific Northwest are warned about the species now known as larvae, a parasite that proves nature still has surprises that can turn our own bodies against us. Maya thought her tooth was just loose from stress. What crawled out reminded everyone that we're not always alone in our own bodies. Sometimes we're carrying passengers we never knew we had, waiting patiently in the darkness of our bones and tissue for their moment to emerge. The last larva removed from Maya's jaw was kept alive for research purposes. 32 days after extraction, it emerged as a fully formed fly, black, about the size of a housefly, but with unusual markings that had never been seen before. It lived for 8 days in the lab, long enough for researchers to study its behavior and life cycle. Before it died, the fly laid over 200 microscopic eggs in the provided substrate, proving that Maya had unknowingly served as an incubator for an entirely new branch of the parasitic fly family tree. Some encounters with nature leave us with memories and photos. Others leave us with passengers we never wanted, growing silently inside us until they're ready to make themselves known. Maya's loose tooth wasn't failing due to poor dental hygiene or bad genetics. It was being pushed out by dozens of living creatures that had turned her jawbone into their nursery, feeding on her tissue and preparing for the day they would emerge into the world. The dreams that haunted her sleep weren't stress-induced nightmares. They were her unconscious mind trying to warn her about the reality living inside her face, a reality that was far more disturbing than any dream could ever be.